Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name's Jasper Bruce Wright and today I'm driving the brand new facelifted Peugeot E208 and I'm going to tell you if it's any good. Yep, Peugeot's smallest electric offering has recently undergone a facelift, and with that facelift there have been a few design changes, so let's start with those. The front of the car has had a few changes. So what we've got is a new grille with some fantastic bodywork coloured elements in it, and these light clusters have also changed. On the pre-facelift model, these were a single strike that came down from the headlamp clusters, a bit like the fangs of the Peugeot cat. However, now you have three claw marks which come down either side of this bumper, which give it a really unique looking front end, which I must say I really do like. These headlamp clusters are full LED and you've got those LED daytime running lights down here. You've got some lovely bits of aerodynamic styling around the front, and this grille is a really nice centerpiece. Obviously your new Peugeot badge here, and down here a sensor for your assisted driving systems. You've got Peugeot's 208 script above your badge, and you've got the first of your 360-degree camera system. Down the side you see a large contrast between these black plastic wheel arch covers and this really bright yellow paintwork which just pops beautifully in the sunlight. Peugeot call this colour Aguenda yellow, and in some lights it does look a little bit more green, but certainly it's a fantastically bright visual popping element to this car's styling. The side itself hasn't changed that much on the facelift. You've still got some lovely gloss black plastic folding wing mirrors and the gloss black plastic that works its way around some of your windows. This car is fitted with keyless entry and keyless go, and you've got some absolutely lovely new alloy wheel designs. So these are a 4-stud diamond cut finish, and these are 17 inches in diameter, so they're not too large. You've got a good bit of sidewall on these tyres, which does help improve the ride of this car. I must say I do really love these new alloy wheel designs. They're a nice refreshing update to the side of this car. Along here, because this is the electric model, we do have an E badge, and in this spot on the other side of the car we have the fuel filler flap, which houses your Type 2 and CCS charging connectors. More black plastic cladding around your wheel arches, and at the back you've got a lovely little gloss black plastic spoiler over your rear glass and light clusters that say Peugeot in them that curve round to the back of the car, which is possibly my favourite angle of this car because I absolutely love the dark tail glass, bright bodywork, black plastic bar, and then more bright bodywork down to this gloss black plastic actual diffuser, because it's an electric car, so aerodynamics are really important here. And yeah, I think this looks so unique and really nice and modern in this segment. These light clusters are really quite tasteful and they are full LEDs. Now here we also have the Peugeot script stuck across this black plastic bit on the tailgate, and down here we have E208, obviously because this is the electric version of the Peugeot 208, and because this is the top spec GT trim, we have a GT badge down here. If we pop open this manual boot, you will see a space which contains 309 litres of storage for you. So it is quite a deep boot. There is no false floor here. Underneath the actual boot floor you have a small area close to the back of the car which houses your tyre repair kit and compressor and towing eye. This car of course does come with a Type 2 charging cable, which unfortunately does take up a bit of space in the boot if you do need to carry that around with you. Obviously if you charge at home regularly overnight, you won't need to keep that in the boot, so you will have your full 309 litres of space. You can of course fold those rear seats down, and if you do that you get 1,118 litres of space, which is actually pretty good in this class of car. The boot essentially has no features apart from 2 tie-down hooks against the back side and a single hook for a plastic carrier bag there, but it's a usable space, and yes, you have to lift stuff over and in, but it's pretty good for this class of car. let's see what the back seats are like. With the E208 being a supermini, it is, of course, something that comes with this size of car that the back seats are a little bit limited when it comes to space and comfort. So at the height of 5'7.5" or 173 centimetres, sitting behind my own driver's position, I definitely do have enough legroom. However, if the driver was, say, 6 feet tall, about 180 centimetres, my knees would be using the recessed element in the back of this chair for actual space, and if the driver was even taller, I may have to spread my legs to actually sit comfortably back here. Headroom is limited but acceptable, so my head doesn't touch the ceiling. If I were any taller, it would, so I would potentially have to slouch down a little bit. But then again, this is a super mini, so space is not really what it's all about back here. For a super mini, the material choices back here are actually surprisingly good. On this GT line trim, you get some lovely Alcantara seat bases with polyurethane leather and some gorgeous bright yellow contrast stitching throughout. You've got some lovely headrests, and you do have 3 belts back here, as well as Isofix points on both of these outer seats, so it would be a practical car for a small family. Actual practicality elements back here though are relatively limited. You do have an elasticated net on the back of both of the front seats and a USB Type-C and USB Type-A charge port back here, but there's no climate vents, and you've only got a small door pocket which unfortunately doesn't actually fit my reusable bottle of water. If I did have a crinkly plastic single-use bottle though, that would fit back here. Your materials on the door cards are plastic at the top and most of the way down, but you do have some leather elements around the grab handle. I've got a handle in the ceiling back here and LED lighting as well. Let's go and check out the front of this car to see what it's like up there. The seats up here are certainly ridiculously comfortable, and actually one thing I do really like is on this trim the driver's seat gets a massage function where it will gradually inflate and deflate the lumbar support to give you a little bit of something to concentrate on longer journeys. The seating position is a little bit unconventional because it uses Peugeot's cockpit system, which means you have a gauge cluster that's digital but sits quite high up. And the expectation is the steering wheel will actually sit lower than usual, so instead of looking through it to the gauge cluster, you look over it. Now, I really like this, and it does work quite well for me as a shorter driver, but if you have longer legs and they stick up a little bit, you would actually start to brush the bottom of this steering wheel on your thighs, so you might have to angle that up slightly. For me, I've been able to find a really comfortable driving position, and I've actually covered 600 miles in this car in the time I've had it, so in terms of comfort, I cannot complain. Material quality in the front is also brilliant. I really do like the styling in this cabin, and while yes, you've got some plastic on the door cards, you do have some carbon fibre styled inlays and some gorgeous gloss black plastic that kind of festoons the centre console. You've got a pair of digital screens, there's this kind of 3D effect in the gauge cluster, and a brilliant landscape oriented infotainment system in the centre of the dashboard. That is really easy to use. It's got built-in satellite navigation, but you can also use wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You've got a row of physical buttons here, which are your shortcuts to get to a few climate features, because unfortunately you do have to adjust everything in this screen, but you do at least have shortcut buttons to get there. And for your screen demisting, you do have a physical button. You've got a volume knob over to one side, and in this car I've got 3-stage heated seats, which are capacitive buttons at either side of this row. Down here you've got a flap which opens up and has a Qi charger in it, so you can just pop your phone in there and it kind of encourages you to put it away when you're driving, and it certainly blends in nicely with the interior. Down here there's a small cubby for other bits and pieces. You've got your shifter here, which is a rotary flick it back and forwards style, which we've seen in a few Stellantis models. There's a nice bit of carbon fibre here, not my favourite bit of the interior. And I've got a pair of cup holders here, which fit my reusable water bottle, both in the small and larger one. I've got an electronic handbrake and a drive mode selector down here. Under this armrest, I've got a removable section, and this storage cubby down here is actually surprisingly big. This armrest is also very comfortable, and we've got the same stitching on these seats in the front as we did in the seats in the back. My reusable bottle of water also fits in the pretty large door pockets, but unfortunately, because this is a French car, what we've got is a tiny glove box because there's a fuse panel to the left-hand side of it. You've got a pair of USB Type-C ports up front for charging and connecting to the infotainment system, and this steering wheel is a slightly unconventional kind of octagonal shape, but it's really nice to hold and has got some lovely materials on it, as well as a nice GT badge down here. The sunroof has a large roll-top cover over it that is just manual, but actually everything in here that you touch, you lay your hands on, does feel really good. Does it drive as well as this cabin suggests it might though? The E208 has a battery which sits underneath the car, and in comparison to the petrol model, that adds about 300 kilograms of weight. But the car does an excellent job of disguising that, both in terms of ride quality and comfort, but also in terms of dynamics. So, this being the GT line specification, I have got a little extra power boost over the standard E208. That comes with an electric motor which produces 136 PS at its peak, but this GT line gives me 156 PS at peak performance and 260 Newton meters of torque. These power figures are good for 0 to 62 in 8.2 seconds, but it certainly feels quicker than that, partially because it's an electric car and you get that extra little punch away from a standstill. The battery pack in this is just under 50 kilowatt hours of usable space, and that is good for a WLTP claimed range of 248 miles, and I must say, in mixed driving, I actually think a figure very close to that is achievable. I'd say somewhere in the region of 230 miles for mixed driving. I've done quite a bit of motorway driving in this, and when you're doing 70 miles an hour, your range does decrease to around 200 miles real world range, but that's still very impressive. Over the last 637 miles, I've seen an average of 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour, which is actually very good. It pays dividends to the aerodynamic work that's been done as part of this facelift, and certainly the range has improved as a result. What I will definitely say is that the range of this car is very, very usable, and topping it up at a 100 kilowatt fast charger is possible to do in about 30 minutes to an 80% charge, so it definitely recharges pretty rapidly as well. You have 3 drive modes which are selected down here. You have Eco, Normal and Sport. In Normal mode, you only get access to the 136 PS level of power unless you push your foot through the kickdown switch. In Sport mode, that 156 PS is all available immediately. So if you want snappier acceleration, stick it in Sport mode, and if you want the most fun driving experience, have it in Sport mode and also engage your braking mode by pressing the B button down here. That gives you maximum regeneration, and it actually makes this car surprisingly fun to hustle. The 156 PS and 260 Newton meters of torque certainly provide you with a good pickup, and it's pretty sprightly. It certainly feels very comfortable and disguises the extra 300 kilograms of weight very well, and I've actually had a tremendous amount of fun in this. Put it in Sport mode and you can really have some good fun in the corners because you've got the punch to take yourself away pretty quickly, and the drivetrain is really well controlled, so it's not difficult to drive quickly. The steering is very direct, and in Sport mode it weights up beautifully. You don't get much feedback, but you don't in most electric cars. You can at least tell vaguely where the wheels are pointing, and it's certainly got a little bit more to give you back than most EVs I've driven. Cabin refinement is actually excellent, with only a faint whir from the electric motor being audible under harsh acceleration, and very little road or wind noise being present in the cabin at all. This is remarkably quiet on a motorway, even in windy conditions. It really is an excellent package when it comes to refinement and cabin noise, and also when it comes to driver engagement for this class of car. Pickup when you're driving at speed is also very good, with the motor delivering a good punch of power if you put your foot down. The traction control in this is excellent, and there's very little torque steer. Even if conditions are slippery, I've struggled to make this brake traction. There is no adjustable level of regenerative braking. It's either essentially all the way off or all the way on. And if you take the car out of B mode, it almost coasts as you would expect with an ICE-powered car. So the driving experience, if you have the regenerative braking turned off, is actually somewhat reminiscent of a traditional petrol-powered hatchback. So Peugeot have done a really good job here of balancing the futuristic technology afforded by the EV powertrain, but with a familiar element to the driving experience that you don't necessarily get in this car's competitors. The suspension is remarkably compliant, with it smoothing out even some impressively large bumps in the road. I've certainly never felt this car's been too stiffly sprung, and despite how comfortable it is, it really takes corners well. It's certainly not particularly short of grip, and that means that it's a very sure-footed vehicle to drive. The controls you interact with as a driver are generally really good to hold and feel, so the steering wheel is lovely. The stalks behind it are also really good. My only complaint is this cluster of cruise control buttons, which I don't particularly get on with in terms of their placement, but also their function's just a little bit clunky. The car has speed limit recognition using a camera system and does have a collision sensing system, as well as all-round parking sensors and a kind of pseudo 360-degree camera setup. The thing, unfortunately, that is missing from this particular model is adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist, both of which can be fitted to the Peugeot E208, but aren't in this case. Both of those features would help make motorway driving a lot more easy to do, and they are unfortunately not standard fit, despite the car having the capability for them. All in all though, this is fantastic. The amount of real-world range you get makes this car incredibly usable. It's actually something that would be a really good family vehicle if you've got maybe younger children and don't necessarily have to go particularly far, but with this being such a fast car to charge, even longer journeys aren't a hassle. So the Peugeot E208 is absolutely worth you checking out if you are after an electric supermini. It drives really well, is practical enough for the segment, and has heaps of tech available, although you do pay the premium price for the top trim and for the best bits of technology. So absolutely worth checking out, and it's a wholehearted recommendation from me. I have really enjoyed having this car for a week to test out. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do let us know by liking, commenting and subscribing to the Buckle Up YouTube channel. There are numerous ways you can support the channel, including checking out all of our social medias, which are linked in the description below. I will see you in the next video. Bye.